Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for this Seriti Talks discussion today. It's very lovely to have you all here, and a special warm thank you to Lucius, to Ntombi, and to you, Gugu, for availing yourself to be a part of our panelists.
Thank you for allowing us to be here.
All right, so I'm going to jump right into it and do a quick introduction of our different panelists, and I'll be starting off with Ntombi. Ntombi calls herself Babes. Oh, she's called Babes for Agriculture. She's a social entrepreneur and she's passionate about youth and agriculture. She also owns a poultry abattoir and she also produces broilers and vegetables. Ntombi has more than 10 years in the agriculture sector, and she's currently working as a project coordinator at Gender CC. Thank you, Ntombi, for joining us and welcome.
Thank you so much.
And coming up next, we have Gugu, who is from House Harvest. Gugu is a young female farmer and an entrepreneur with ambitions in organic and regenerative farming. She has also been featured in multiple esteemed television shows and magazine articles. She's a writer and she loves to tell real stories in the agricultural sector, and she's an avid reader herself. In her free time, she enjoys her vegan lifestyle and advocates for the female voice in this work of area. Welcome, Gugu.
Hi, Refilwe. Thank you for having me here.
Awesome. And then we have Lucius Phalane, who is an agricultural economist and has an MSc from the University of Northwest. He currently works for the National Agricultural Marketing Council, and he works under the Markets and Economic Research Center. And he's responsible for trade advisory, which includes international trade policy, trade agreements, and research. Lucius, thank you so much for joining us and welcome.
Thank you, Refilwe, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. So now, for those of us that don't know, what does the National Agricultural Marketing Council do, Lucius?
Okay, thank you. I'm going to be very brief in explaining what is NMC. So basically, in short, is NMC, but this National Agricultural Marketing Council, and is an advisory body to the Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform, and Rural Development. So we advise the Minister of Agriculture on the marketing of agricultural products. So this was established in terms of MAP Act in 1996. So it also administers statutory measures and also agri-trust of all products, and with the exception of sugar, which is administered by the DTIC. So the major strategic objectives is to ensure that there's an increasing market access for all participants in the agricultural sector, and also to optimize export earnings of agricultural products, and further to promote the efficiency of marketing of agricultural products. So basically, it's more focused on the marketing of agricultural products to ensure that all the players within the agricultural sector, they have access to sustainable market, both locally and internationally. So we are formed by 4 divisions. So there's one that I'm coming from, which is MEC, Market and Economic Research Center. And there's agribusiness development, and a division called Statutory Measures and Agricultural Trust. So within my division is split into 3 units. So there's one that I'm coming from, which is on the international trade research. And there's other one which is more focused on the smallholders. And the last one is it's more on the agro-food chain. So under agro-food chain, they are responsible to monitor the prices, to check the farm to retail prices. So that's all about NMC.
All right, thanks for that, Lucius. It sounds like you do a lot of work, and it looks like one would want to get into a little bit more of those outside of this conversation even. And don't be with you having had more than 10 years in this industry. Perhaps I should start by asking what sparked your interest into agriculture?
Okay, so thank you so much, Refilwe, for having me. I think initially I did not have interest in agriculture. I did not see myself as a farmer, and I actually I just thought, look, agriculture was not cool, and I looked nothing like agriculture. But I left corporate, and I had nothing to do. Like I was bored, and I needed an income. So I met a friend and whose mother had a piece of land in Winterveld, and she was a farmer in the area. And at that moment, I think the number of cows that she had fascinated me. And I thought, look, I wanted this. This looks cool. You know, it's something that I wish I could do. But looking at the cows, and I thought, no, this is expensive. Where do I start? And I then started visiting a few piggery farmers in the area. And that's where my interest actually started. I started in piggery, and I made a whole lot of losses because of lack of information and trial and error, doing things because you wanted an income and not being informed. I lost a lot of money, and I was demotivated. I almost left the industry because I thought, no, this is not for me. But eventually, through doing my research and seeing what is needed, and initially then the love of agriculture started actually, you know, brewing inside me. I went into poultry, and that's where I realized that, look, this is my first love, and I'm in it to win. So I then started, you know, doing my research, finding help, I mean, from other farmers, because at that current moment I didn't have land to work on. I started leasing land and partnering with farmers, which did not work out at all, because I realized that in agriculture, you need to share a vision in order to be able to work together. If there's no vision shared, there's just no way you can actually work together. So I think that's where my interest and passion of agriculture started. And to this day, I think, yeah, I don't regret ever starting. Yeah, so I think that's in a nutshell.
Thanks for that. I was going to ask what challenges you came across in your journey, but you sort of somehow nicely covered that. And perhaps, Gugu, you could let us know also what sparked your interest in this industry, and how are you finding it so far?
All right, thank you, Refilwe. So basically what sparked my interest in agriculture was the point in my life where things weren't going very well, to be honest with you. I went to university, and I dropped out on my third year due to financial reasons. So I had to go back home and kind of recollect myself and kind of go back to a drawing board and see what it is that I want to do. What is it that I want to pursue? What are my passions? What are my interests? And to be honest with you, I realized that agriculture has always been a part of my journey. Even when I started in university, I actually applied late. I went to University of Pretoria, and I applied late. And the only degree course that they had at that time was biological and agricultural sciences, because not a lot of people were taking it. So I knew that I loved life sciences from matric. I knew that I loved biology. So that's why I went into the course. And then later on, I changed it to something more human scientific. So when I was back home, you know, I realized that, but I'm a person who loves plants. I love being around nature, you know, and let me try and see where I can find myself. And being a person who is young, who's always on her phone, I use that to my advantage. I started searching, and agriculture would just pop up. You know, it would always just pop up as an opportunity. And like Untombi was actually saying that she felt like she didn't look like agriculture. And I actually resonated with that, because I also felt the same way. I felt like, okay, well, I see people are doing this, it's dope. And, you know, but yeah, it's more old white farmers. It's really, it didn't appeal to me. But you know, as I was YouTubing on my phone, networking, something said, no, agriculture is the way, just keep going. And that's where my love for it grew and started. It wasn't something I was exposed to or taught. It's something that I went and I found. And when I found it, I just never let it go. And from then started my journey. I started YouTubing, being a YouTube scholar in terms of how do you plant. And in my mind, agriculture looked very peaceful. It looked like birds and trees and sweet harmony, you know. So I got a pleasant surprise when I went to volunteer. I was so bold back then, actually. I went to the outskirts. I'm from Emalahleni, Mpumalanga. So it's a very small town. I just drove to the outskirts where the farms are. I was like, hey, I just want to learn agriculture, you know, can I see what you guys do? And I was really lucky enough to find farmers who was like, yeah, sure, who took me in, and I started volunteering. It was a matter of volunteering before I even got to the place where I am today. So it was volunteering, it was farmers at first trying to protect me because they're like, you know, you're a female, how about you just do our books? You know, nobody really actually wanted to give me a chance. You know, they felt like you're a female, there are certain jobs for you that are more appealing to you instead of being on the field and doing the actual groundwork. So that's where I started, and that's where my love for agriculture grew.
That's an interesting story right there. And Lucius, it makes me wonder if the perception then is correct that young people are not interested in this field of work.
Yes, that's very true. Over the past, we have discovered that most of our youth, they are not, they are lacking interest into the agricultural sector. And one will ask a question why youth are not having that negative perception about agriculture. As Gugulethu indicated that they never looked like agriculture. They never saw themselves being in the field, harvesting and being dirty the whole day, or sitting on the sun the whole day. So the perception start there. So the moment you overcome that perception, so we'll have people like Ntombi and Gugulethu being successful farmers in the future, or commercial farmers. So there's that a negative perception about the agricultural sector from our youth. And also I can indicate that the agricultural sector also compete with other sectors, which are more cleaner. And so they tend to opt for a clean sectors because they have that perception that I can't sit on the sun the whole day. I still need to maintain whatever that I'm applying on the face and do my nails. So they had that issue that no, I can't do this. And also to think that this also for old people, if you can see now, there are older ages that are more active into the agricultural sector. So just a big background from my side. My interest was developed when I was still growing with my granny. So she used to plant, you know, in the villages, you'll plant some maize and harvest. So I've discovered that actually there's a potential in this thing because it can feed us. So my interest was developed from there. Then I started to grow some veggies. So, but I let go of that when I go to varsity to study agricultural economics. But the interest was developed from a very young age. So I can say if I couldn't be that active with my granny when she was still planting, I was also going to have that negative perception that agriculture is useless. I can't be there. I need to sit in the office and do my things. So there's a negative perceptions around our youth. And also there are still some debates that youth are not attracted in agriculture. And that also put the sector at risk, especially in terms of the sustainability, because most people that are more active are old age. and they're getting old, and they need to equip our youth with the skill that they have. So it's also a risk to the sector in terms of the sustainability.
I'm sure Ntombi would agree with you there, because in one of her quotes, she says that she believes that the youth play a critical role in terms of ensuring that there's food security. But apart from that, Ntombi, how do we then change the youth's perception to or attitude towards agriculture? Because I mean, we grew up seeing our grannies and our parents plant, and the reality of it is that it takes time for a tomato to get ripe, and then eventually it gets to the stomach. But and also that means it's a journey when you decide that you want to go into agriculture. So how do we get people to be interested in this space, but also being genuine in our stories, in ensuring that they do not only come into the space, but they stay in the space? Because it becomes difficult after a year or two, then you realize, oh, I got myself into something else here, maybe I should try something else. How do we change the perception of the youth from that of it being negative towards the agricultural sector, but then also how do we, once we've gotten them into that space, how do we maintain, ensure that they stay a little bit longer to ensure success in that regard?
Okay, I think, Refilwe, firstly, we need to rebrand the face of agriculture. We need to bring life into agriculture. Agriculture does not have to look like a tractor and dirty soil. I think my personal logo is getting your hands dirty today to feed tomorrow's future. I think one thing that I always do, and I make it practical. All the young people that I work with at the Abattoir, I firstly make it look attractive. Refilwe, I never look like a farmer. I always have makeup on, Refilwe. And with young people, they just feel that how are they going to just look and do all these things, plant today, and then wait 3 months before they get a fruit and vegetable out of, the soil. But they need to understand that agriculture is not just planting, Refilwe. There's agro-processing. There's different technologies that we need to introduce into agriculture to keep them on board and to make it look attractive, because I think, yes, there's many old methods of farming that we could actually apply to what we're doing now. But what we need to do is that to keep them, because remember that firstly, young people are attracted by money. And in agriculture, it's not a business that you are going to be rich overnight. It does not work like that. I don't know if Gugu can add to that. You can never be rich in agriculture overnight. That's number one. Number two, they need to understand why they're doing it. Firstly, you need to have a love for it, Refilwe, because young people need to understand that food security is important. And number one, I always tell people that, look, whether Moody's rates are 0 or COVID hits, people need to eat. And that's one business that unfortunately will always be. We need to keep feeding the people. And how do we do it? We need to do it together. But how do we make it attractive? How do we make it, how do we bring in technologies and bring in, they're always on their phones. How do we now link that to what we are doing? How do we make sure that they can measure what they're doing on their phone? So we need to bring in technologies that will keep them attracted, that will keep them. And at the same time, they need to understand that there's many things to just planting. The business element of agriculture is not just putting a seed in soil and watering it and getting it. There's the agro processing, which there's more money in it. I always tell people that long ago, we didn't know what it took to make tomato sauce. But when you actually realize how easy it is to make tomato sauce, you could just be making the tomato sauce and letting all the old people just continue planting, So we need to actually bring it home, make it cool. And they need to realize that the money as well, that there is money in agriculture, because young people feel that there is no money in agriculture. And I tell them about the poultry industry. I think I was lucky enough to actually have been mentored by the late Dr. Richard Mabonya. And he was a tough businessman, and he sat me down, and we need mentors as well. He sat me down and opened his books for me, Refilwe. And I think that for me actually showed how the potential there is in the poultry industry. He was the only Black farmer that was producing 1 million birds per cycle, and a cycle in the poultry industry is between 5 and 6 weeks. And if he allowed me to see his financials. That's when I actually realized that this is possible and this can happen and that I can actually live off this. So the young people need mentors. They need to actually see that you can actually live and survive and have a lucrative business in agriculture. So I think that for me, we need to rebrand it, make it cool, bring them home and then let them enjoy it.
Awesome. Thanks, Ntombi. Gugu, do you think perhaps that you are contributing to making it look? How do you think you're doing that? How do we rebrand this sector to make sure that it attracts more and more of our youth?
I think definitely I am contributing to showing the youth that a female farmer, a Black female farmer is farming and she is enjoying it, especially. So I got introduced to agriculture via social media, via the media. You know, I was utilizing my phone. So I think I still use that platform, my phone, to brand myself, to expose young people to opportunities, to show young people what it's like in the agricultural sector, you know, to also, as a farmer now, you are more exposed to other young farmers. You realize that there's actually a lot of you guys, you know, so I always retweet, repost, I join meetings such as these, platforms such as these. So I think I am contributing in the most youthful way by using social media and by using my phone to say, hey guys, we are out here, look at what we are doing. It's amazing, it's cool. And, you know, we're opening up dialogues like that, and we're opening up people to see that agriculture, it looks like them, you know. So I feel that I think I am doing it. I think a lot of young people are actually doing it as well. So.
And that's obviously coupled with passion and an understanding that it will, and you having had traveled the journeys with an understanding that you do not plant today and eat tomorrow, right?
Yes, I think what young people are slowly understanding is that agriculture is, like you said, a journey. It's a long-term investment. So passion has to kind of fuel you and drive you forward each and every day, because there will be challenges, there will be wins and lows. But if you are passionate about agriculture and you have a direct vision and you have the right mentorship, I think what Ntombi was saying is very important. Mentorship, I don't think I would be where I am right now if it wasn't for someone guiding me, showing me the ropes. So mentorship is also very important. And also to have yourself, you know, agriculture is a business, so you need to equip yourself with business management tools. You can't just rely on maybe a skill that you've inherited, maybe from your grandmother, you were so lucky, or someone. You need to understand that, you know, your business, your skills need to generate income. So it's very important that young people understand that agriculture is a journey, and the more that they equip themselves with the skills, the more that they, you know, they save the money that they get so that they can continuously grow, then they're going to win, they're going to make it.
Thanks for that. Lucius, Gugu and Ntombi just mentioned mentorship there, and I guess it's been a very important part of their journey, and it's gotten them to where they are right now. So I have to ask, what intervention methods do we have? Do you, I know that you have the Y program running in your organization, but if at all this, if you can expand into the entire industry, what interventions are there to ensure that we incorporate young people into the space?
Thank you. In terms of the interventions that we have in maybe in the department or in the NMC, there's this other program called Junior Land Care. So this program is designed to empower South African youth, particularly those that are based in the rural areas. So this program, it addresses the issue of youth unemployment, and also the skill development, and also school nutrition. Basically, this program, it starts from the primary side of school to the secondary. So they are trying to address and also to equip our youth about the skills that are involved in the agriculture in planting a particular product. that is one of the instruments that they're having. And the other program is called NASREC. So mainly most of these programs are more on rural areas, because there's that belief that most of the people that are having interest in agriculture are from the rural areas. Mm-hmm. So they are also trying to address the issue of migration, where our rural people go to the tend to relocate or migrate to the cities looking for gold. So that's what the program are trying to address. So this program on NASREC, it capacitates unemployed youth for meaningful so that they can participate in the economic community development of rural communities. So it enhances the participation of youth in agriculture, and also to equip them with the entrepreneurial skills. So the program that we're having at the NMC, it existed a long time ago. So it's no longer with NMC. I think it's with the national department. But there we were more focused on assisting our youth, especially the graduates, with the experimental trainings. We'll partner with different industries where we will put our graduates that needs experiential trainings. So the Y agriculture that is no longer existing at our organization.
All right, okay, thank you for that. We have a question here from Molatelo. He's asking, right, and this question is directed to you, and I guess it's one of the things that we touched on a little bit earlier on about, he's asking what is your view on the long-standing struggles that young people face with regards to having access to government financial assistance or support, and what advice do you then have? What is your institution's advice to the Ministry of the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform, and all of that?
Yes, the main mandate of the NMC is to advise the minister on the marketing of agricultural products. So we are more on the market side than the land bank, where it comes on the financial side. So I'm not sure if I should expand more on what we are doing in terms of advising the minister, or but in terms of the finances, as I've indicated, there are a lot of challenges. You can't get a finance without accessible to a land. So, and which most of our youth, they struggle to get a land. So if you don't have a land, most of the finances, they have these requirements of saying you need to own a land and a certain hectares so that you can get the funding. And most of our youth, they have a leased land, which also put that difficulty in getting some assistance from the government.
All right, that actually takes us back now on the issue of land. It brings us to Gugu and Ndombi. They're asking, what is your land holding status, and how easy was it, or how difficult was it to acquire the land you are using currently, and what challenges perhaps, or how has your journey been like in terms of having access to markets? Gugu, you can take that one.
Okay, so with regards to land, I think it's a very touchy subject, and it's one of the, I think, the first obstacle that youth encounter, because you know, I don't know how many times I get people asking me, where do we get land? You know, is there maybe like a database that I can, you know, go to and source out land? I just need a hectare, or I just need a small amount, you know, X, Y, and Z. So land is, I think, it's, you know, it's a very debatable issue. But for me, if you're not maybe in the rural sector where you're using communal lands, I feel that leasing is is the way to go, is the only option, actually. So with me, I found the land via word of mouth. And that's how I feel is the most successful. You know, if you're really part of the farming community, because, you know, farmers also, they kind of keep to themselves, and they are also very iffy about who they allow in their own space. So, you know, because I'm a person who's just out there, you know, going door to door, or maybe asking this farmer, hey farmer, please, I need land, can you please help me out? Then he or she will tell someone else, like, I have this girl, you know, she really wants land, can you please help her out? So for me, word of mouth really worked to my advantage. I feel like actually that's an opportunity that we as the youth and you know, government authorities need to realize, that we need some sort of database where we can, like an Airbnb for farms, you know, so that farmers can get, at the end of the day, if you're young, you don't have a lot of money, just a small hectare from maybe someone's big farm will do. So for me, I think I was lucky in a sense that I asked this person liases me to this person, because they can see that this one is passionate, she really needs space, can someone help her out? So they also saw that drive and they decided to help me out. But I know it's a struggle for many young farmers and aspiring to get the land. So I wish I knew what the solution was.
Do you have anything to add to that?
I think, you know, when it comes to land, as Gugu just mentioned, it's painful. It's a painful situation, and you're just fortunate enough where you can get a piece of land where you can actually lease. For now, leasing is the only way, I think. And I think also young people can also take advantage of schools. Especially the ones that are actually doing vegetables, you know. I know schools are very open to actually leasing out their land so that you can actually utilize it. And they've got, you know, the beauty is that it's fenced, and you know that at least the security issue is eased a little. But I think this goes out to our Minister of Agriculture, because they had programs, Your Plus programs initially, where they were giving out land to people that were not using the land. I know of people that built, I mean, the 99-year leases where people build your double-story houses and are not actually still using the land. So I think the criteria of how the land is allocated, the minister should actually look into setting aside a piece of land or a few farms, because I know there was a list of farms that were advertised recently that were going to be issued. They should actually be allocating such a few, you know, farms for young people. Even if, I mean, I know that cooperatives are not the best model to, but farmers where if those that are used, maybe planting cabbages, or I don't know how they're going to do it, but a system where they can actually group them to actually maybe work on a farm together or something. But there should be a model that government is encouraging to actually use land, state land that is currently available. But currently, it's really sad looking into the land issue. Leasing is the only issue that I'm also leasing, so I'm using municipal land, and it's not the best, but I'm working, you know. So yeah, land is a very sensitive issue, especially because most young people don't have collateral to actually buy land. So it's a nightmare, but government actually has to look into it to actually create something for young people to actually farm.
So the next question would be, what financial assistance or what financial interventions have you received, or perhaps how did you go around in securing financial assistance, and what financial assistance did you get for you to get started, to get you to where you are today?
Okay, I think personally, I was lucky enough because I had another business that I was running. So I took from Peter to feed Paul. And I did that, and it wasn't the best solution, but I did it. And I can comfortably say that I did not get any funding from the NYDA. It failed me dismally. Your Gauteng Enterprise Propeller did not assist, but I know GDAT came through for me. I know I went knocking on GDAT's doors, and even though it was not financial assistance, but in terms of getting inputs for me to actually get the finance. So I think also the fact that I was so determined to make things work. GDAT gave me inputs, and I made sure that from those inputs, I raise money and I sell whatever that was given for me to actually feed into my business. Because another thing is that young people forget that agriculture is also a business. Whatever you make, you need to continuously plant into it so that it grows, so that you can actually see a result at the end of the day. So yeah, I can say GDAT and rural development and the municipality as well played a huge role in actually making sure that I get the assistance that I got, even though it was not financial, but the inputs that I got actually helped. But the youth entities that are there are the ones that are also failing young people. I think NYDA needs to step up and actually make sure they do what they need to do to actually help young farmers.
All right, and Gugu, did you have any other inputs outside of finances, but also if you did get financial assistance, where did you get it? How did you go about it? Anything that anyone can sort of have as a takeaway from this point right here?
I have to agree with Untombi, that's what I also did. Remember, I was at home, guys. I was unemployed at home, so I needed to do something for myself. So I started a business here at this site that was able to feed my agricultural enterprise. So I have the worst experience with NYDA. I applied, they gave me the runaround. They have not assisted me at all. Government hasn't assisted me at all. I have received a PESI voucher from COVID-19. That's the only assistance that I have. So cash flow and getting money from the government is a problem. I'm not saying it's general. Some people have gotten assistance, but for me personally, I have not. And I feel that at the end of the day, government really needs to play their role when it comes to supporting the youth in agriculture, because it's like I said, we are so many of us who have the skills or who have the know-how but don't have the financial support. So I think that is a stumbling block that needs to be addressed. But at the end of the day, on the flip side, you can't wait for government to help you out. If your dream is agriculture, push yourself to make it a reality, because sometimes you might unfortunately wait forever. Like I'm saying, it can happen that they can assist you, but if they don't, you yourself can push yourself. Because what I love about agriculture, it's the literal seed sowing. So you sow what you get. So once you start, just even on a hectare, you can really make profits to enable you to continue a cycle each and every growing season. Provided that you're doing crops. I don't know if maybe Ntombi has a different outlook, but for me, crops give you back money. So even if you have, just enough to, even a small hectare, that really is something that's going to push you forward like you won't believe. There's this girl from Khayelitsha, Unqumisa. She's doing so well. She's from Khayelitsha, so she just went to an open space. I think it's even less than a hectare. If you can just Google the amount of support she's getting. Why? Because an initiative was there from her. She didn't wait for the government. She just said, you know what, here's an opportunity. I'm going to use what I have, the little that I have. And that really goes a long way. As farmers, small scale farmers, we have a motto that funding will just find you on the way, but you have to start. So I think that's what I have to say when it comes to access to funding.
All right, I get that. There's differing opinions on the chat. It's quite very interesting. Owanga was asking, how can we encourage young people to view farming as a profession rather than just a second option, and a second option that one would go for after being rejected by the corporate world. And we're talking about how do we make agriculture cool or sexy or anything so that it appeals to young people so that they can be incorporated into this very important space, because it's an ongoing space. It's one of those things we all need to eat, and we're going to continuously want to eat, and we need young people to be active in that area. And Lee's asking, why do we insist on making agriculture cool or sexy for it to attract young people? And he says, he or she says, from her experience or his experience, and how they know the sector. Agriculture is what it is. One sector that requires passion, especially if you want to embark into business. So this thing of trying to convince people that agriculture is cool does not work, as we have seen it with most graduates. It requires passion, not convincing, to succeed in agriculture. Hence, it is most likely to see people who practice agriculture succeed than those who learned from it from the book with much passion. And I guess I have to agree with him there, because yes, for me, it's much more of a thing that I have an agriculturalist friend, but I'm not really interested in those things, you know, and I call them those things even. And that simple interest to know that you buy or how the water system works. I go to the farm every now and then when I need a break, but the simple interest in knowing how to do this and how to do that can actually end up sparking something, but that interest is not even there. So already with the interest not being there, there's like less room for passion to actually be created or be developed. And now that takes us back to the question about passion. That is it, do we want to solely say that for me to succeed in this space, I need to be passionate about it? Can I not be taught to grow into loving it? Or should I need to be crazy about it for me to get in and succeed? Ntombi, you can take this one.
Okay. I think firstly, young people are visual. Whether we like it or not, youth are attracted to what they see. So if they see something that does not look good, they will not be interested. And then I think, secondly, in terms of passion, Refilwe, it's complicated. I've worked with extension officers who've come. I mean, they studied agriculture. They went and they studied agriculture, and then you find that what they've learned and what I'm doing on the ground are worlds apart, you know. So agriculture is more, practical is just something else. Theory is something else in agriculture. So you need to bring the two together to make it work. Because I've seen that at the end of the day, I found myself telling the extension officers that this is how this is done, and what they learned was something completely different. So a passion, you can teach someone to end up loving agriculture. That I know for a fact that is possible. But remember that it's what they are seeing. Remember, you need to teach, they need to come see, and then they will, if eventually they will love it, they will love it. But other than that, there also needs to be a business element into this thing. I always tell people that, look, you can plant all you want, and you can plant 10 hectares of cabbage. And if you are not business minded, the cabbage will grow and it will wilt in the soil. You know, I've seen farmers, like for instance, there was a program, especially in the poultry industry, where government came out and government gave input to people that did not need it. So how it was done is that by a raise of hands, government officials came and said, who wants to do poultry? And because people are hungry, people lifted their hands, people got poultry houses, which today are elephant structures. And then they were bought inputs, and they were said, okay, here's a few chicks, here's the feed, grow them. And after 6 weeks, the same people went back to government to say, okay, now your chickens have grown. What do I do? Because remember, these people were not farmers initially. So they were given inputs, they were given everything, but they did not have the business element of things. So these things are interlinked, Refilwe. At the end of the day, you need to remember why you are doing it. You cannot just farm to have fun. You cannot farm because you are bored. You need to understand why you are doing it and how you are going to do it. And I always say, if you don't know anything, ask. I mean, I got to where I am today because of being inquisitive. And I picked that up as well from Ugugu to say, being inquisitive helps, guys. Asking a lot of questions helps. So get yourself out there and understand why you are doing it. You can have all the passion in the world and lack the skill. You can have the skill and lack the passion. But at the end of the day, you need to remember why you want to do this. Are you doing it for fun? Are you doing it because you want to get an income, or are you doing it because your grandparents have land and you had nothing to do with the land, you know? So all of those things play a very serious role. And in terms of education as well, Refilwe, yes, people need to stop doing agriculture as a second option. Just because you were not accepted in A, now you're doing agriculture, at the end of the day, you become miserable because that was not your first love. So you need to understand why you are doing this and do it for the right reasons. But I always say, at the end of the day, you need to bring in the business element of things, because that's where you'll understand the numbers. And remember, it's a numbers game. The less you do it, agriculture is a numbers game. If you don't get the numbers right, you're not going to win in this industry.
All right, thanks for that, Ntombi. Lucius, do you have anything that you want to add to that?
I think Untombi have summarized it very well. So my addition is that most of our youth, they need to be aware that there are various value chain that they can involve in, especially in planting. So some can go to university just like me, who can have a formal work, and also some, it also goes with the passion. Some can be entrepreneurs like Untombi and Gugulethu, and who will have also the element of business, and also some can work in a family farms and or in the cooperatives. So there are different components that are involved in the value chain. So there's also the agro processing. You can specialize into agro processing, make sure that whatever that Ntombi is producing and Gugulethu are producing, you transform it. If it's tomato, you can produce tomato paste. So there are different ways where you can be involved in the agri sector.
All right, okay, thanks for that. So my next question then would be that we spoke a little, but let me rather deviate from that one, because it's the issue of land compliance and all these things that we spoke of a little bit earlier on. But I want to know from you, Lucius, that how are we finding the performance of young people and them moving from maybe a smallholder status to them being on a different level? I don't even want to take it to an international level, because I'm not sure what that space looks like, but maybe Gugu could add on that once you're done. But how are we, now that we've gotten the youth interested and they are like active members in the space, how are they then moving from a smallholder or a startup farmer to now being able to get access into the market? How is that going?
What I can say is that it's very difficult for our smallholder farmers to access the market. And that is because of the standards that are there in terms of the quality, and they also need to deliver a particular quantity, so on a specific time. So most of our smallholder farmers, they are very small, so they are failing to meet the quantity. So that's why it's very difficult for our smallholder farmers to access this market. So there's a new procurement system. So that tends to require a very large volumes and also a consistent supply. And this normally it favors large farmers because of the land, the size of the land that they're occupying, and also the quantity that they are producing. So this favors large farmers over our small scale producers, which oftenly most of our small scale producers are youth. So these young smallholder farmers are often obliged to maintain the compliance with the quality, and also to cover the cost of the certification in terms of SA-GAP, and also to invest in technology and infrastructure. And also there's a labor force that they also need to pay. So there are a lot of things involved, and this normally, if you are not passionate, you might be kicked out of the business and have those negative perception that agriculture is not working. So you need to have a good heart because of these barriers that our young farmers are facing. So in terms of the access to market, our small agricultural producers, they sell their producers at various kind of market outlets. So, but most of them, because they can't produce a quantity and a quality product, they tend to focus more on the local markets, which is our supermarket and also our fresh produce market, which they also have their own standard that is set in terms of the quality.
Yeah.
But yes, so the reason why the other reason why they are more focused on they supply the local markets is because local markets are traditionally the most accessible, given the simpler logistic as compared to our exports. So in South Africa, there's an SA GAP standard and there's also a global standard. So recently they are trying to make sure that our SA GAP, it matches with what is required in the international GAP. So that will mean that,
Lucius, just on that, already we're seeing that there's these I don't red tapes perhaps that are sort of blockages that are there and making it difficult for young farmers to actually enter into the markets. Now, if we're going to take our standards and our South African standards and move them into an international level, do we not think that that would actually even make it a little bit more difficult for our people to have access to the markets?
So the aim of doing that is to make sure that if you are failing to, or if there's a limited demand of what you are producing locally, if there's no enough demand locally, you can also have an alternative. So this was developed to make sure that our farmers, they have an alternative market, which is the international market. But firstly, the first priority is the local market. If you are able to sell your product in the local market, you are more than welcome, but there's an alternative which also gives, I can say, high returns in terms of the prices that are offered there when you export.
All right, I'm sorry I interrupted. Do you think you can still recall what your point was going to be before I asked you that question? Because I just came in there.
I was flowing. I forgot.
It's not a problem. Gugu, I just need to find out, how are you doing in terms of where you are in your business right now? How easy or difficult was it for you to have access into markets, and how is that going? Perhaps maybe are we now going to start looking at going into international markets? Is that where we're performing also? Just let us know a little bit more there.
I don't know. I'm a bit worried about what Lucius is saying, that they are changing policies to make it, I feel, extra difficult. We were speaking about being passionate about agriculture, but passion can only take you so far. We also need support from legislation and policies to help us really materialize this passion of ours. So if there are stumbling blocks that are already, as small scale farmers, we are facing, and then there are going to be more policies that are going to now, put more pressure on us, whereas we're already, as primary producers, not getting the enough support. It's a bit worrying there, Lucius, I have to say. But with regards to me, so I supply to the informal markets. Actually, there's nothing informal about the informal markets. That is one booming business that I feel like we overlook. As consumers and also as primary producers. I also supply to my local fresh produce markets, closest to the one in Springs, and also the biggest one, Johannesburg. So for me, when I started last year, it was also about understanding the markets. market at that time. So I planted spinach and I planted late, and we had such a cold winter, my spinach frosted, therefore it delayed my season. When I finally took my new spinach that I produced, like we harvested around August. When I took that spinach to the market told me there's an oversaturation, and my spinach sold for 3 rand. So it's very important for farmers to also understand who they're going to be selling their produce to, and to also go to the markets to inquire what it is that is needed. But here's what the tricky part, right? When you get there and you see that, okay, they need potatoes, you can, as a farmer, go back and plant potatoes, but when you get to the market again, they'll be like, yeah, we have potatoes. So it's like a catch-22. So it's very important for you to diversify when it comes to your market. I have learned that. And unfortunately, with this season, growing season, we don't have anything planted yet. We are going to only plant in August. But for me, how it's going when it comes to markets, I think last year was a learning curve for me. And now I've managed to speak to food lovers market that just opened near Boksburg. I've managed to speak to local businesses as well, because we also went through COVID. So a lot of things were very standstill for me in terms of my workforce and all of that. So I'm slowly picking up, and I'm slowly also learning from the mistakes I made last year. So this year I'm focusing on making sure that I get the markets, I sign contracts, because now I know my numbers. I know what I'm able to produce, and I know how much I'm able to harvest per week, let's say. So yeah, right now what it's looking like for me is preparing for next season.
All right, thanks. That sounds like a journey on its own. I mean, having had to put in so much work and energy into something only for it to not to be able to sell it at a value market that you thought you would sell it at, and to still keep going. And now at least you've gotten those lessons and you are going for bigger, broader things. Lucius, is there something that you want to add to what Gugu just said?
Yes, I just wanted to emphasize something, especially on the issue of market. What we have discovered at the NMC is that most of our farmers, they plant for the sake of planting. You'll find the whole area, they are planting cabbages while they don't have the market. So I just wanted to concur with Gugulethu, what she just said, in terms of making sure that before you plant, you need to have, you need to know where you are going to supply your product, whether if it's in demand or what. Because sometimes they will just call and say, like Untombi was saying, they will call and say, no, we have chickens, so we need assistance with the market. So which is wrong. So they need to have like a background feasibility study, I think, where they approach the market and they have a standard contract. So before they plant, they know that after harvesting, this is where we are going to take our products to. This is to avoid the issue where our farmers, they end up throwing their produce, which is a waste for them. So before they can plant, they need to have a standard a market, and also with the guidance, because most of the markets, they will guide you on how they need to, which cultivar they need of a particular product. And some, they will tell you that, no, we prefer watermelons from a certain area. So let's say they prefer watermelon from Limpopo and you are in the Free State. So obviously they are not gonna consider you. So those are some of the specifications that we normally get from the markets in terms of the product that they need. So even location, it also differs.
All right, thanks for that. And Ntombi, you had your hand raised there.
Yes, thank you, Refilwe. I think I wanted to add on to what Gugu was saying in terms of market access, which could, it's very painful for an emerging farmer, you know. I personally, I'd like to tell people that I never rely on retail, you know, because they determine their prices for you, and they're the worst people to go to. Informal sector is the best sector, you know, to make money. You know, I love that sector because you know for a fact that people will eat, and you determine your own price so long as you are within the right region. You know your pricing. Because I mean, I looked at the fact that Pick n Pay wanted to take my chickens at a certain amount per kilogram, when I can sell a whole chicken in the informal sector for 65 rand, you know, unslaughtered. Yeah. And yeah, so I actually realized that, look, why don't I work backwards, take business to where the people are, in terms and like taking business out of the location in the informal sector where I am and looking for formal markets. The informal market is the best market. And unlike Gugu, COVID worked for me. I think last year was the best time for business, because I actually realized that, look, funeral parlors were the best market. People were dying and people were buying, you know, as much as death is a good business, guys. And I actually started supplying funeral parlors, and it worked magic, because a lot of people bought. They still buy vegetables, they buy poultry, and they buy beef. So why not actually plug into a system that is already working? So in terms of that, we also need to find markets that will actually work for us.
Wow, that's interesting, Ntombi. I guess you have to be seriously business-minded for you to see opportunities, even though there's, it seems like all doom and gloom, you know? It's very interesting also that for me, it's not only a matter of passion, but the interest has to be created for the passion to actually be ignited. So, and I'm saying this because I saw during COVID last year, we were doing food relief, delivering food to people that were in need. But soon enough, it was realized that, look, this is not sustainable. Maybe we need to teach people how to actually be able to secure their own food. And Work, Learn and Grow team started doing, teaching people how to create and maintain their own gardens. And lovely stuff, you know. Now you can make your meal with gravy and spinach, you know. And then soon enough, now this year we decided, okay, let's take the same food, or the same people that are gardening in their backyards. Let's take their excess that they have of whatever vegetables that they have. Let's take it and sell it and go to the markets and sell it, right? We go, we collect, we go with them. We go and stand in front of, we had hired a space there in front of, very close to Pick n Pay back in Bella Bella, and we start selling these vegetables. And before you know it, one person here makes 450, another person makes 180. This is money that was not there last year. This is money that nobody will give you. And what recently we went back to Bella Bella, and we actually went there for a different reason. So that this one gentleman actually now moved his entire, previously it was mealie meals. Now it's just a bunch of tomatoes. And you see that the interest was not there, or maybe the inputs were not there. Now he understands that I can sell these things. And for him to be selling tomatoes, he understands that tomatoes are a little bit pricey now of late. So he's going to come into the market at a competitive, from a competitive edge, you know. And it actually is from that, from just creating the interest or sparking the interest, to moving it to a passion, to a realization that, oh, but this thing can actually turn into a business. And I guess it's for us to actually continuously try and create that interest as far as we possibly can within our youth and our communities. Gugu, you had your hand raised there.
Oh, okay. No, I just wanted to just maybe touch on what Ntombi was saying with regards to farmers booming during COVID. And I just wanted to maybe share a little bit of my experience that first of all, it was the winter. We planted late. When we got to the market, there was an oversaturation. Number two, it was, you know, the uncertainty of last year, you know, people were still deep into COVID, trying to understand it, keeping safe, quarantining. And, you know, my workers also had the same problem. They were like, you know, coming to work, is it safe? There's transport system was also not working for them. So I sometimes had to go fetch them. And, you know, even when they are at work, it's just that the mood was kind of different. So my labor force actually decreased because people weren't coming. People was like, you know, we're choosing our health. And I also had to make means with the cash flow in terms of paying them. I found that I could not sustain that. So I had to allow them to plant maize and spinach at the back of the fields, also for food purposes. So for me, I really, my leadership skills were tested last year because people were telling me how to run the business. So like I said, you know, I'm a new farmer and I am learning so much as I go. And COVID was an opportunity for a lot of farmers to make money. And, you know, for me, I think my struggle at that time was the people I was working with. So it's very challenging, you know. I know some people would be like, you know, as a covered farmer, you were supposed to make so much money because, you know, we are an essential service, but it did come with its own challenges as well that, you know, people might not be aware of. Refilwe, your mic is off.
Sorry, yes. I was saying thank you for that. I mean, it's different experiences for different people, you know, and that's why Lucius was saying earlier on that it depends on where you are, what's going on in your market, and all of these different, key role players in that time and space even. We've reached, we're over 8 minutes. We're 8 minutes over the hour 11 o'clock. And I would just like to ask if you want to say anything to anyone that perhaps has an interest in farming, or perhaps a young person that is passionate but does not know where to start, or how to keep going for that matter. And I'll give that over to Ntombi to start in closing.
Okay, thank you so much, Refilwe. I think for me is my door is always open. Anyone that needs mentorship, because I know that that is one of the most painful things to go through, especially in business and in agriculture. So firstly, any young person out there that has a passion or an interest in farming, any information that I can share, my door is always open. Look, it has to be done. We need to feed the people. You know, people are hungry. Let's put our hands together. And I think one other thing is that we also need to stop working in silos as farmers. One thing that I've learned from our white farmers, and I'll be specific, our white farmers, they do not work in silos. Our white farmers work together, they understand the value chain, and they help each other out. So my plea to all young farmers out there is that let's do this together. Let's put our hands together. Let's hold hands. Let's share markets, because I know farmers don't like sharing markets. Let's share markets and let's take turns so that we can be consistent in what we do. Because one thing that Lucius also mentioned is consistency, quality, and quantity. So let us work together. Let us get our hands together, do this thing, and make it sustainable, make it lucrative so that we can enjoy this. So thank you so much.
All right, Ntombi, thanks for that. And when you say people can get a hold of you, how do we go about doing that? Via email?
Email, Facebook, it's Ntombi Xolisile Majeni, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, same. And then on my email address is ntombi.majeni@gmail.com.
Okay, so I'll share the email address on the chat because I have that. But alternatively, if anybody wants to get a hold of Ntombi and you don't know how to, or you are unable to, just get a hold of us and we'll be able to make that connect. Gugu, any parting words?
Yes, I think Ntombi put it very well. At the end of the day, we need to look at how commercial farmers are doing it, and they are doing it by working together. I know sometimes as young people, we have that drive to succeed and thrive all alone, but in this sector, we really do need to work together to be impactful and to grow, you know. So I really want to encourage young people also to have that vision of inclusivity and growth, and to understand that, you know, if you win, I win. So just to leave with parting words, I think we can say that don't give up. You know, if agriculture truly is your passion, make it work. Trust me, you can make it work. Start small. I know the sky is the limit, but there is so much value to be learned with starting small. Instead of putting your eggs in one basket and even losing money, start small with a small hectare, be a backyard farmer, show, first of all, incentive and initiative. And trust me, you know, the right people will see you, you will grow, you will be successful. So don't be shy to start with humble beginnings. That's where we all started. And yeah, people can find me on Twitter, Gugulethu_CM. I do farm spaces like this as well. So I bring in young people to be speakers. If they are doing cabbage, I put them together so that they can tell us about cabbages. I do that weekly. I'm doing that tonight. I share opportunities on my page. I want everyone to win. So you guys can catch me there, and also my email, Refilwe, I think you can put it also up. I'm available. You guys can ask me anything. So.
And your Twitter handles?
Gugulethu_CM.
All right, thanks for that. Lucius, any parting words?
Okay, thank you. So in conclusion, we need young, talented people because of the challenges that we face in the agriculture. So there are a lot of challenges that we have faced in the agriculture, which also climate change forms part of them. And also the other issues like market access. So this, if we have more people, more young people into the agricultural sector, so that we can be able to feed the people efficiently and safely. So we'll be, I know there was a party that I cannot name that working together we can do more. So we need to make sure that food reaches everyone at cost effective. So if we work together, you can share transport cost. If there are 3 farmers that needs to deliver their produce to fresh produce market in Joburg, so they can hire one transport which can deliver all their produce at once. So they will split the cost and it will be effective for them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lucius. And what avenues do you think we should direct, or maybe if any of our participants that are attending, if they have any questions directed to you, they can direct them through to me, and I'll just be that connecting point between everybody. Everyone, thank you so much for attending. It's been a great conversation. It feels like it could go on and on, but thank you for availing yourselves to the panelists, but also to the participants. Thank you for your continued questions and your attendance of the talks. The next talks, we have not finalized, but we'll still be talking about agriculture. So thank you and have a great day. We'll speak soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good closing. Yeah.